Ardavila. Welcome back to the Forbes Books Podcast. And I saw this great meme online with a quote that's attributed to this old newscaster by the name of Joe Moore. A simple fact that is hard to learn is that the time to save money is when you have some. But we're not saving money just for the sake of saving money. We're saving it for the next part of our life. But are we doing it right? For some, retirement can be a scary thought, but it has to be thought out. My guest this week has been helping folks navigate the complex world of retirement for more than 25 years. His name is Chris Orestis, aka the Retirement Genius, and he is an expert in retirement planning, long-term care, and financial health. Chris, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Great, Joe. How are you? Thanks for having me on today.
You're very welcome. I'm doing very well as well. And so they call you the Retirement Genius, and I guess I want to start with, and I like to keep things positive but negative. What are people doing wrong when it comes to retirement?
People make the mistake of not realizing that what is required to really have the right retirement lifestyle is a combination of things. Too many people just focus on making money or will they have enough money? What are they going to do to make money? How are you going to save? How are you going to invest? But they don't think about the full picture of how to create a well-balanced, well-rounded retirement. And it's having financial security for sure, but you also have to think about health and long-term care security as people age. What are they doing to plan for that? Because people's health will change. As you age, you're going to have challenges. And then what are you doing about having a purposeful, meaningful, active, fulfilling lifestyle? So I like to talk about retirement as three legs of a stool. If all you're doing is focusing on money and you're not taking care of your health, you're not planning for the future of how aging will impact you, and you're not attending to what's your plan for being in retirement. Too many people show up in retirement, they don't have a plan. They just sort of show up one day, look around and go, well, now what? It's the well-balanced retirement. It's bringing all of those pieces together like a puzzle to create the real retirement in today's world that everybody wants and everybody deserves.
Well, and I think the problem nowadays is it's almost like it's one of those unsaid things that we need to prepare for, but no one ever says them. I was working with a kid a few years ago, just out of college. It was his first full-time job working at this radio station I was at. And one day he just barged into the studio, angry as hell. He goes, I can't believe this. The people in the business department, they signed me up for something called a 401k, and they're taking money out of my check. I don't want that. I want my money. That was followed by a 30-minute conversation about the importance of retirement and 401ks. So you have this issue where people don't even know what a 401k is, what an IRA is, all of those acronym soups that you guys know so well. So why do you think there's such a problem with people even knowing the basics of retirement?
Well, yeah, it's a topic that people think about or they hear it conversationally, but they never really drill down into it. And that's a great example, right? A 401k. You've heard that phrase many times, but you're not quite sure really what it is or the advantages to it and why somebody like that person or anybody who has the ability to tap into a 401k should fully take advantage of it, because you're getting pre-tax money put away that will be invested and grow tax deferred for years to come. And for many employers, they're going to match you. So let's say you're putting 3% of your paycheck away. They might match you another 3 or 5 or 6%. It's all pre-tax dollars. So before the IRS can tax you, you should be taxing yourself. Put that money into savings, let it grow tax deferred, and that becomes one of the cornerstones for a secure and well-balanced retirement. And for too many people, it's just a topic that they don't want to get to. It's always something you're going to think about later. You'll get to it later. But every day that goes by is another day you've missed out on the opportunity to put some money away, watch it grow. And if you keep kicking the can down the road, one day you're going to wake up and it could be too late and you've got to scramble, and then you just don't have enough time to put away enough and have it grow over enough time to be a substantial part of your retirement income, which in today's world, people need to plan on lasting possibly for decades.
And how has things changed? Because one of the great things with medical advancements and society in general is people are living a lot longer than they used to. I mean, it's not rare to see your average 80 or 90-year-old just walking around playing pickleball down in Florida. A lot of people are living longer. So back in the olden times of, people retiring when they're 65, they're like, okay, cool, I just need money for maybe another next 15, 20 years. How are people now preparing themselves for the fact that they may be in their retirement life for longer than 20, 30, maybe even 40 years?
People are looking to retire earlier if they can, although some people are the opposite and they look at what they have or haven't put away and they realize that they're going to need to keep working later into life. And then there's people who want to keep working. And we do encourage people to think about in their retirement, staying active, staying engaged, continuing to generate some kind of an income if you can. Studies show that the more engaged you are, the more purpose and fulfillment you have in your life, the longer you're going to live, the healthier you're going to live, and the more you're going to be able to stretch out your money. It's a mistake for people to think that they could retire just on Social Security and that's going to take care of them. So life expectancies have increased. If you look over the last century, life expectancies have increased significantly. They've stalled a little bit, actually, interesting right now, and a little surprised during the period of COVID. On average, life expectancy gains have stalled. But overall, you're seeing people live longer, live to older ages, and the biggest fear they have is, one, will they outlive their money? And two, will their health break down and they'll end up in a nursing home or needing some kind of long-term care?
And you brought up the health piece. Why is the health piece of everyone's, I guess, golden years such an important part to what your messaging is?
Well, there are a couple of ways of looking at it. Well, I always say one of the biggest financial investments you can make for your future is taking care of your health today. Because if you get into your retirement years, you're in your 70s, your 80s, maybe even as young as in your 60s, and you didn't take care of your health, and you start breaking down, that will become one of the most expensive aspects of your budget and could drain your money very quickly. Healthcare costs out of pocket, and particularly long-term care costs, you get to a point where you need home care, memory care, skilled nursing care. That gets very expensive and will eat away at somebody's savings, could drain a lifetime of savings in a matter of a year or two. So from a financial perspective, taking care of your health is a very important financial strategy. I also just like to remind people that what good is working your butt off, saving up a bunch of money, you've got a Ferrari sitting in the garage, but you're too sick to get in it and drive it. The irony of people who get to a point where they retire, they've put enough money away to live a really good lifestyle, but they didn't take care of their health. And now instead of traveling and enjoying life, they're going on doctor's appointments all the time. They can't go anywhere. They or a loved one, it's just a constant quest to work your way through the healthcare system, get your prescription drugs, and you need to make, as much as the importance is to make financial investments in 401ks, IRAs, you need to make those investments in your health through exercise, through diet, through taking care of yourself, so that when you get to retirement, not only do you have the money to do something with, but you actually have the physical ability and health to do it with.
Chris, we can debate just about anything these days, and there's no gray area. Everything is black or white. So how debatable is it the way people are handling money and retirement these days?
Well, the current state of retirement is interesting. In prior years, 10, 20, 30 or 40 years ago, everybody sort of took the same track to retirement. You'd retire at 65. Many people would end up on a pension and combine that with some Social Security, and you'd live a relatively comfortable lifestyle. Nothing lavish for the most part, but comfortable, and maybe playing golf, spending time with the grandkids, maybe spending some time down in Florida. Today's retirement is so different. It's more defined by an opportunity to be able to now work and do things because you want to instead of because you have to. If you've been able to put some money away, take care of your health, you have a budget and a plan for how you want to live in your retirement years. And that's so important. You don't want to go in, you don't want to be blindly driving away towards retirement and not be sure of the pieces that need to be put in place financially, insurance, investments. But you don't, and then you don't want to show up in retirement and have no game plan going forward from there. So what we work with people and advise people to do is to make sure they have a map to get them to retirement, but the map doesn't end there. The journey really begins there. That's the second phase of your journey. It's how do you get from here to retirement, but then how do you live in retirement? How do you manage that money? How do you set up the right budget? How do you have your lifestyle, your goals mapped out so you have purpose, you're fulfilled, you're active, healthy relationships with others? Your money then is designed to help you achieve your goals. So it's again that well-balanced approach. It isn't enough to just focus on money or ignore money and just think, well, someday it's all just going to work out and we'll see what happens. It's a game plan and a roadmap to get from today to retirement and then to get from retirement through retirement.
How big is diversification when it comes to someone's retirement, whether it's the money, real estate, investments, anything like that? How important is diversification when it comes to retirement?
Yeah, the way that you balance your finances in retirement is very important. For a lot of people, they think when I get to retirement, I move all my money out of investments and I put them into CDs and money market accounts. I can't have any more exposure to risk anymore. I need to just be in bonds and things that are going to be little to no risk, which also means little to no reward. And that's a mistake. You need a balance and diversification so that your money still has the opportunity to participate and grow in the stock market, in other investments like maybe REITs or business investments, while you have a certain percentage of your income stockpiled, quote unquote, in cash, like in CDs or money market accounts, because those perform at very low returns. In today's current interest rates, you're maybe getting 0.5%. Well, on average for the last 10 years, inflation's grown at 2%. And over the last year, 7 or 8%. So if your retirement plan is your money's all in money market and CDs, so you're making maybe 0.5 point, and you're collecting Social Security, which, by the way, doesn't keep up with inflation either, right, then in reality, you're actually losing money in retirement. Your money is eroding. So you need to put yourself in a position where your money's not at risk, but you've diversified yourself enough to have cash in a safe position, but other investments still functioning that when you mix it all together, maybe you're still operating at a 5 or 6% return on investment rate to keep yourself ahead of that on average 2% inflation. And like I said, in the last year, that's grown even by 7-8%.
Chris, people don't like to take risks when it comes to money. But is there a way to talk to someone who is risk averse in their retirement years?
Yeah, it is. You have still a lot of misconceptions about retirement, about time frame, about the value of money, the need, which I always encourage everybody to keep finding a way to produce income, not just living on the income that you produced in the past. But what's interesting is we're also seeing a lot of what we call retirement reluctance. We look at different types of retirement personalities, and one of them is the retirement reluctant. And that can be somebody who is retired and they're so afraid of outliving their money, running out of money in retirement, that they're actually cheating themselves and they are living lower in terms of a budget and lifestyle than they ever have, even though they've got more than enough money to be able to live a much better lifestyle than they are. It's interesting to see. There's some people who go in with an unrealistic expectation of how they're going to live with not enough money, but also an unrealistic perception of how they're going to live when they have more than enough money. So finding that balance in getting the calculation right for to match the lifestyle is really the key to this whole thing.
It's funny how it's a mindset thing too, because you talk about the reluctant part of it. I know maybe my father-in-law and other older individuals, they're like, if they have to make a large purchase, like say get their roof done, they start crying poverty. They're like, oh my God, I'm not going to have any more money. Then, obviously if you find out, like, no, they're going to do just fine. But how do you shift people's mindset? Because that's a mindset thing. That's not a crunching the numbers thing, because you can show them all the numbers in the world and be like, hey, listen, you're okay. What do you do with that?
Well, it's about establishing a budget and understanding that inside of a budget, you're going to have certain unexpected expenses that will come along. And one of the things that we emphasize to people is it's smart to have, say, a year or two of your income, which might be about, let's say, in the neighborhood of 75% of what you experienced during your earning years, sitting in a relatively liquid position, like in CDs or a money market that you can get to it, you can draw down for your budget needs. The rest is invested and should keep growing. Remember, and I always like to make sure people remember this in terms of perspective, bear markets tend to last over the history of the stock market on average about 10 months. Bull markets, the recoveries, on average over the history of the stock market tend to last close to 3 years. So when you look at the trajectory of the stock market and the growth of money, there are certainly dips. And the mistake I've seen too many people make is on those dips, they panic, they cash out, lock in their losses, and then they sit on the sidelines as the market recovers and takes off again, and then they miss that opportunity for growth and recovery. And when you're younger, you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you have more time to go through the ups and the downs. But when you get to the later stage and you're in retirement, you want to be in a position to manage the dips, cover your expenses, not freak out when you have an unexpected expense or some turbulence in the stock market, while you still keep advantage of the fact that you have money out there that is growing and keeping you ahead of inflation and adding to your retirement liquidity position. And don't forget, again, the more active somebody is, the more purpose they have in their life, and through that maybe keep driving income into your accounts, the better off you're going to be financially, health-wise, lifestyle-wise, across the board.
One of the things that gets kicked around a lot these days is like, oh my God, Social Security is going to go away one day. As someone who's been in the money business as long as you've been doing it, what is the likelihood of that happening? I was joking with someone the other day. If that were to ever happen, they truly would burn down the Capitol. This time they would actually probably end up burning it down. Is there any chance of Social Security ever going away?
Well, remember, as they've always said, Social Security is the third rail of politics. You touch it and mess up, and you will be electrocuted and you will die. Politicians know that. The most powerful interest group in America is seniors. Organizations like AARP and the Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, there are tremendous groups and a lot of political action that makes sure that those programs, those social safety net programs, Social Security, Medicare, even Medicaid, are not going to go away. Now, you do hear reports of the demise of the programs coming up all the time. Most recently, there was a projection that said that the Social Security Trust Fund, that's just the component of Social Security that is, call it money in the bank for the program, could be depleted by 2033. But remember, most of Social Security, I'd say 75 cents of every dollar that is paid out on a monthly basis to those that are on Social Security is coming out of current payroll tax deductions. All of Social Security and Medicare, for that matter, is funded by payroll tax deductions. Now, the misconception many people have about Social Security is, well, I've been paying into it, so that money is in an account with my name, and it's going to come back and be there for me later. It's not. It's sort of money in, money out, money in, money out, and the program is not going to go away. There will be adjustments to the program in terms of age, benefits, taxes paid in, but there will be numerous opportunities to make mid-course corrections to keep the program viable and healthy. No one should look at Social Security as their sole source of income for retirement. Right. But that being said, it's not going to go away.
Speaking of the political ramifications of it, it's funny, the word socialist and socialism gets thrown around like a political nitrogen bomb, but it's, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, those are all versions of socialism that people don't seem to make that same connection with. Do you find that funny?
Well, people don't like socialism except for the parts that go into their pockets.
Right.
There was a funny thing years ago. I think it was during the Obamacare debates, and that was a very fiery debate 10 years ago. And there was a protest sign, and somebody, a senior or somebody was waving a protest against Obamacare saying, "Keep your government hands off my Medicare." It is the government, in fact, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are three of the most popular, best-run government programs in the world, while everybody complains about and how much they hate the government. So it's always ironic and interesting to me in that observation in that regard. But all politics is local. So, you hate everybody else, but you like your politician. You hate all the other programs, but you like your program. And anybody, and it's not just the people who are on the programs, but then it's your loved ones, your family members. Yeah. If Medicare is not there to help people pay for their health care, if Social Security is not there to help as a safety net for people's income, well, then they've got to start looking elsewhere, and that means they're looking to their family members as probably the next place they got to go.
Why do you think we got Social Security right? Because, we're in this world where we're always pooping on the government, screwing something up, fill in the blank there. Why do you think Social Security worked? I think, was it FDR who started Social Security, or which?
Yeah. Social Security goes back to FDR. Medicare, Medicaid goes back to Lyndon Johnson in the 60s.
So why do you think those programs worked when we always joke that the government never gets anything right?
Well, it's interesting how much they've evolved from where they first started and how much the whole nation's evolved. Population, percentage of tax dollars, but those are well-run programs. And guess what? They're going to be popular because you're giving money and you're giving benefits to people who otherwise would have to find it another way. They've been very actually well managed. Anybody you talk to who's on Medicare or on Medicaid will usually say what a well-run healthcare program it is compared to anything else they've experienced. Social Security does a great job. Those payments are in people's accounts every month. During COVID, there's been extra payments that have gone to people as part of the Recovery Act. More money has gone straight to people's accounts. So the money gets there. It's not enough to live on, though. The average Social Security payment on a monthly basis is $1,500 per month. Nobody can really live on that. But how you time Social Security, because you can get on your Social Security benefit as young as the age of 62, but it would not be a good move to retire at 62 to go on to Social Security for a couple of reasons. One, you can't get onto Medicare until 65. So you've got a gap period between 62 and 65 if you stopped working to figure out how you're going to give yourself health care coverage. Then Social Security actually will reward you with a higher monthly benefit the longer you wait to start collecting. So you could start collecting at 62, but the benefit you could collect almost doubles if you wait to start collecting at age 70. And we encourage people, wait as long as possible to get to age 70 before you start collecting versus 62, 63, between 62 and 65, you're going to be shortchanging yourself because once you start collecting, you lock in at that amount.
All right, we've talked about a little bit about the past and the present, but we talked, boomers and a greatest generation, but now we got Gen Xers and then eventually millennials retiring within the next 20, 30 years. And you never like to clump generations together, but Gen X, millennial, Gen Z even, we love debt. Something that past generations were not very fond of debt, but we love debt and living in it. How do folks who say are paying their college loans till the day they die, or folks who have multiple mortgages and have all this debt, how can they prepare themselves for retirement when all they can think about is like, damn, I got to pay this monthly payment on time, or I'm going to pay more interest?
Well, the first thing they've got to do is come up with a plan to get out of debt. Debt is the financial killer and the retirement squasher of everything. So one of the first things you have to do if you're thinking about retirement is get out of debt. If you've got credit cards, you've got to figure out how to pay those down, consolidate them, come up with a game plan to pay those down and get yourself back to zero. It's normal to have a mortgage. It's normal to have a car payment. For many people, they're carrying a student loan. But the key is, how can you, number one, keep extraneous debt at bay? How do you keep the credit cards from coming after you? Or too many vehicles and boats and toys and all these things that you're accumulating. You really need to have a percentage of your money that you're putting away on a monthly basis. Attack the debt. You got to get debt free as quick as you can to put yourself in a position to, even if you are in debt, you got to be saving. But the more you can be saving and putting money into vehicles that are growing and paying you interest versus you carrying debt and you're paying interest to somebody else. And think about some of the interest rates on credit cards and other debt vehicles. Those are in the high teens and even into the 20s, 18 to 25% on your money. And if you're late on monthly fees, they're going to hit you with additional penalties on top of the interest payments. I mean, it can just turn into a nightmare, particularly if somebody's only doing something like making minimum monthly payments. You're never going to get out of that. So you got to attack the debt. You've got to be saving and thinking in terms of a realistic time frame and budget matched to the lifestyle you want to live when you get to a certain age range, somewhere between 65 and 75. Now, I can tell you, my own father, he's 78, still works every day, works hard. He's got a company. He said to me, not because it's financial, he could retire if he wanted to, but he loves the work. He knows he wants to stay active. He wants to keep going, and it keeps him young. It keeps him healthy. So he continues to bring in money. He continues to make sure that he keeps debt at bay, and he stays active. He stays engaged. He stays fulfilled. Every day for him has purpose. He has a budget, so he's not losing sleep at night, wondering what's going to happen. He's saved, he's invested, and he's still managing to bring more money in. That is the well-balanced retirement that people should be striving for.
And for folks listening, maybe late 40s, early 50s, what are some steps that those folks can start taking right away to ensure that they're protecting tomorrow?
Well, first of all, start with understanding that it's never too late to start. Don't feel like if you haven't saved up a substantial amount of money that it's hopeless, forget it, it's never going to happen. You can still save. You can still invest. So it starts with acknowledging there's still time. And if you need to, cut down on things inside your budget. There's little things you can do. If you're going to a fancy coffee shop every single morning and you're dropping $5, $6, $7 on a cup of coffee and a muffin, that starts to add up. And what I always say to people is, if you want to get a handle on your budget and understand where your money's going, for 1 month, literally write down with a pen and paper, keep a little log of every single thing you spend your money on. The coffee you get, the groceries you do, the going out to a restaurant you do, and then you look at that and you think, wait a minute, maybe this fancy cup of coffee instead of 5 times a week is once or twice a week, and I make some coffee at home. Instead of going out to a restaurant 3 or 4 times a week, maybe it's once or twice a week. So look at your budget. Think about the things you can do to cut back, and some of these things you're going to cut back on are also going to translate into your health, because some of the things that you're indulging in, if you cut back, will not only save you money, but can also apply towards improving your health. There's a lot of ways you can be working out, either at a gym, that there are gyms out there that have very reasonable rates, or ways you can work out at home. the healthy food you can be making at home for yourself. You can really not only prepare healthy meals, but do it in a very cost-effective way. So it's putting all those pieces together to come up with a lifestyle today that very much will also establish habits. So having those disciplines in your life not only will translate into good practices and good results financially, health-wise, lifestyle-wise today, but they're going to create habits and disciplines and budgeting that will translate into your retirement. So what you don't want to do is live one kind of a lifestyle right up to the point that you retire, and all of a sudden your lifestyle radically shifts to something completely different that you're unfamiliar with. Establish habits and disciplines now that will build you up towards a healthy retirement, and then carry them through into your retirement.
They don't call him the retirement genius for nothing. His name is Chris Orestis. Chris, thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Great being here and talking to you, Joe.
Thanks. And to find out more about Chris, head to retirementgenius.com. And that is it for this edition of the Forbes Books Podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I would love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.
This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio. Find out more at ForbesBooksRadio.com.